Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Enhance Your Edge podcast. This is an interview show where my guests tell their story and share what motivates them to be the very best selves they can be. My show has no sponsors or advertising, and my only ask to you is this. If you love the show and find it entertaining and informative, please share it on social media. Facebook, Twitter, whatever. If everyone who listens to the show shares the podcast, it would make an unbelievable impact, and I would be eternally grateful. My first ever guest is a good friend of mine, Josh Templeton. Growing up, Josh had quite the athletic career. In Tennessee as a senior, he was all-state, and despite being 5'9" and $140, was nominated for Mr. Basketball, which is an award given to the very best basketball player in the state. He went to a tiny Division III college after his only offer to play D1 was revoked, and went on to become a two-time All-American and led his squad to the 2003 National Championship. In his poker career, he's the epitome of a grinder. He has the highest six-max win rate of just about anybody I know, and let me tell you, his graph is ridiculous. It's something most of us dream about having just so we can blow up, make into a fathead, and hang it over the fireplace. I hope everyone enjoys this interview as much as I did conducting it. Without further ado, here's my good friend, Mr. Josh Templeton. Hey everybody, I'm with Josh Templeton, grinder extraordinaire. Josh, nice to have you on the show.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Let's get into your early childhood. How was it growing up in a house with a dad who was a basketball coach?
You know, really, it wasn't hard or anything. It was more of like I just grew up around basketball and in a gym. So pretty much my days consisted of going and watching all the players and thinking that they were all awesome and that I wanted to be them, and just staying in the gym and enjoying playing and being there. So it wasn't that he put any pressure on me or anything. It was just, it was really, I feel like it was a great childhood.
How old were you when you first started realizing you wanted to be like those guys?
I didn't put the G.I. Joes down until I was about 7 or 8, and then I played on my first team in the 4th grade, and I was the only 4th grader on the team, and it was mostly like 6th graders, a couple 5th graders, and that's when I really started getting into it. So I guess that would have been around 9 years old.
Is that not a little late to start a competitive sport?
I don't think so. I think a lot of people think that you're supposed to start and put a bat and a ball in their hands when they're super young, but I think you just kind of let the kids play and with whatever they want, whether it's toys or hide and seek or video games or whatever. And if they're around something enough or they enjoy something, they'll develop an interest in it on their own. And I think that's the most healthy way, instead of trying to force your interest on them.
Did you? How were you as a 4th grader? Did you suck?
I actually was fortunate enough. Our high school was on the same campus as a college. And when I was in the 4th grade, I was just slinging the ball up there and hoping it would go in. And my dad got me with his college coach, and we traded shooting lessons for my mom taught piano lessons, and he gave his daughter piano lessons for my shooting lessons, and he taught me how to shoot. And I kind of just, that's all I did every day was just shoot. So it actually went pretty well. And I ended up making our elementary team when I was in 4th grade.
So let's rewind. When did your family think that it would be a wise investment to your mom's trading her time for the piano lessons for the basketball lessons? Like, when did your dad think that was a good idea? That was a direction that they wanted you to go?
Well, I think I was always in the gym wanting to shoot, and I guess he had a conversation. He was the high school coach at the high school that was on that campus at the time, and I just was always in the gym, and he didn't really know how to help a kid that little with his shot. So he got this guy who was kind of a shooting expert to do it. And I think my family thought it was a good deal because we were broke. It wasn't like, my dad was a Christian school teacher and coach, so it wasn't like we had any money to pay for shooting lessons or anything. And I just always wanted to be in there. So they didn't ask me. It just happened. I was always in the gym, so I got to work with this guy.
So it's kind of interesting. Like, you would think that you would have an edge over other kids because your dad's a basketball coach, but he couldn't even help you with your shot.
Yeah, it gets really tricky when you're trying to teach someone whose body is so underdeveloped certain things about technique, because it's going to change in the next couple of years as they get stronger, and it's very hard to teach. And that's another reason why I think that, fundamentals and everything is great, but there are fundamentals in their form, especially when it comes to shooting something as big as a basketball up 10 feet when you're 60-pound kid. It's going to change in the next couple of years. So that's why people have a hard time with it. And I just don't think that it's a big deal to start them that early.
Gotcha. So you started playing basketball. You moved into high school sports, obviously. You were up for Mr. Basketball in the state of Tennessee in high school. What led to that?
Well, I think I was always very competitive. My sister was a year younger than I was, and she wasn't quite as competitive, but I always kind of drug her into my competitions. Like if we were eating breakfast, I made it into some kind of race or something, and I drove her crazy, I know. But
was she racing too, though? I mean,
she ended up getting shamed into it because I would talk so much trash.
So you made her a willing participant in breakfast eating contest.
I did, and just kind of, I don't know, growing up outside, I really wish more kids kind of lived that free range outside lifestyle. We grew up in a really rough neighborhood in Chattanooga, and it was right next door to a gym, and even then I would go outside and come home and the streetlights came on for nighttime. Like I'd go outside after lunch and come back for dinner when the streetlights came on, and you just kind of develop this sense of you better learn how to compete or you're just going to get whooped by everybody on the block. So
yeah. So what age were you when you realized you had such a competitive spirit?
I don't think I ever realized it. I just thought it was normal.
Just innate.
Yeah, and my friends they would always kind of make fun of me sometimes because I would get mad when I lost and stuff like that. But they weren't ever making fun of me when they were on my team for it. They always wanted to be on my team. But
what were some things you did when you lost?
I wasn't very big, so I never tried to fight anyone. I would just get mad, and the main thing that I would do is we'd play till I won. That was the main thing.
You just wouldn't let anybody quit until you won.
I mean, I remember in high school we'd be playing pickup games, and if it was the last game, we would be going to 30, and if there was more time left and we were down, I'd be like, hey, let's run this game to 40 or let's run this game to 50. Like, just trying to make sure I had the best possible chance of winning. I don't know. I guess I was kind of psychotic like that, but I just loved to play. Really, I was competitive for sure, but it definitely didn't take away any of the enjoyment. I think it was more of a fun type of competing. I just enjoyed competing, and there was a lot of things I was really horrible at, but I still liked because it had competition involved. One of which was soccer. I loved it when I was a kid, and then after playing fullback and getting hit in the face with the ball a couple times, and people were booting it, and then I kind of steered away from that one.
So it wasn't even so much that. I mean, you obviously did have the competitive drive, but you just didn't want the games to end.
Yes, I wanted to play more. That was the thing. That early on. I think later on is when the ultra competitiveness started coming out.
How old were you when you got just super ultra competitive?
I'd say that started around high school. Probably my first battle for a starting spot on a team. That was probably when I started really getting competitive. I really wanted to win this spot.
Did you get it?
The guy that was starting over me got hurt before the season started, so then I didn't get to find out whether I wanted it or not. I just got it. So there was a little bit of disappointment in that, but also, I was kind of happy. But then halfway through the season, I broke my ankle, so we were both hurt, and we didn't have a point guard.
So everybody got hurt. He was out for the season then.
He was out for the year. I was out for the year. It was quite the ordeal. But our team still won 20 games and did fine. Got to be a great teammate that year and cheer everybody on.
20 out of how many?
I think we were 20-10 that year.
So 66%.
Yep.
What about later on? What about the next year? Did that guy graduate? Did you just win the starting spot outright?
Yeah, the next year the guy graduated, and that was probably the turning point year in my competitive drive. I was a junior in high school, and I've been going to a bunch of elite camps around the country, not necessarily like to get seen by college coaches or anything, but player development camps, and was taught by some of the best basketball minds in the country. Bobby Hurley's father, we went up there and spent a week with them, and I got to do some workouts with Bobby when I was going into ninth grade. Bobby Hurley played with Christian Laettner on those in Grant Hill on those Duke teams that won back-to-back national championships. And I think it was 91, 92 or something like that. And that was when he played for the Kings, the Sacramento Kings. And that was kind of an eye-opening experience for me. And then going to Point Guard College, which is actually a company that I direct for right now, travel around and try to give back and teach kids.
Can we rewind? So you went to basketball camp with an NBA, a current NBA player.
Yes, but he was older. He was more of a teacher and was around.
More of a teacher at that point?
Mm-hmm. He was in the league. That was right out. He had a motorcycle accident that pretty much ended his NBA career, and that was when he was trying to recover from it.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of workouts and stuff that he was doing, and getting to watch him work was very inspiring for me as a young kid.
So how was your senior season? No injuries. We played through. Obviously, you were up for Mr. Basketball. How did that season end for you?
My senior season was very, very heated and also disappointing. We had my junior season the year before, we made it all the way to the state championship and played in front of 8,000 people in Murphy Center in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and it was an amazing run. In my senior year, we had lost a couple of seniors that were good players, but we were poised to do it again. And we were 27-6 that year and lost the game before we went to the state tournament in overtime, and it was a crusher. I was in a lot of pain for a week. I don't know if I went to school for a week after that, and it was time to move on to college.
What? So you had to win the state tournament to get in the state, correct?
Yeah, there's like a sectional tournament in Tennessee. I know. All states do it just a little bit differently. In Tennessee, they have a sectional at that point, they had a sectional tournament that you had to win to get in.
What if two teams in the sectional are like the best teams in the state? I mean, just one of them doesn't go to state?
Yeah, and that happens all the time. These days, it's Memphis. Usually there's 3 teams in Memphis that don't go to the state tournament that are better than half the teams in it.
That seems like kind of bullshit to me.
It really is. It's very. Tennessee has a crazy setup with their high school basketball tournament.
What kind of variance do you think there is in just a one-off basketball game?
No, if the teams are evenly matched, there's incredible variance. A lot of times, whoever has the best players is going to win a lot of the times. But with high school, there being no shot clock and teams can hold the ball and stuff like that, there can be a lot of variance. I mean, every possession is such a big deal when possessions are lasting for a minute.
So the disappointment of the junior losing in state, after the junior year, moving to senior year, you don't even make the state tournament. How did you get recognized without going to state for being one of the best basketball players in the state?
Yeah, I had a really good year. I think I hit like 8 or 9 shots that either sent games into overtime or won games for us during the year, and the sports writers kind of got into that, and I averaged about 23 points and 6 assists a game and had a really good shooting year. And our team was really, really small. We didn't have a whole lot of size, so we were all guards, and I guess I was the most talented guard on the team. And we won a lot of games that year, so I guess people kind of took note, especially having seen me the year before on the big stage in the state tournament.
All right, now let's fast forward to college. Where did you go to college at?
I went to Tennessee Temple University in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's a small college, and we played NCCAA, which is equivalent to NAI or Division III level, and was our league, and had a really, really good career there. gained some weight, got bigger, and got to play against really good teams and show that I could do it against anybody. I figured out when you're 5'9", you have to prove every day that you can play. When you're 6'4" point guard, you got to prove every day that you can't. So I had to prove every day that I could play.
So, is it a safe assumption that your whole life, as far as competitiveness then was around basketball?
It was. That was it. I remembered when aside from my grandmother dying, the saddest day of my life was when my senior year in college, we won the national championship at our level, and I was just devastated. We were 30-4 that year, and when the game was over, I just sat in the locker room and in one of the showers and just cried. Wouldn't hardly take off my jersey. I wasn't going to get to play anymore. It's kind of like, and I think a lot of athletes go through this post-athletic depression. Steve Nash actually talks about it on his little Grantland documentary that he did, where it's like, now what? Like, my whole life has been this, and now what?
You met your wife in college, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that. What year were you?
We actually came in together as freshmen, and we didn't start dating until we were juniors. We were just kind of friends and, knew each other and all this. And then when we were juniors, we started hanging out some more, and I figured out I really, really liked this girl. And so we started dating, and it actually went pretty quick, and we were married before my senior year started. Really? In college. Yeah. I liked to hang out with her, and she was just somebody that I'd known her for a little bit before too, and she was just somebody that I could definitely see wanting to spend the rest of my life being with. So we went ahead and pulled the trigger and got married, and we were married my senior year in college while I was playing ball, and she was working at a bank trying to put me through school.
How long? What's the timeline? When were you married?
It was about 6 months. It was fast. It was. When I look back on it, it's crazy. And she said the same thing. It was fast.
6 months back then probably felt like longer than 6 months does today, though.
Yeah, and it wasn't a shotgun or anything. We didn't have a baby until a lot later on. It was just one of those things. I mean, I think we both just kind of knew. I knew at least, and I kind of had to talk her into it. I guess because I was the one getting the steal. Yeah. She wasn't so sure at first, and then I guess I used my powers of persuasion, and it worked out. And it's been an amazing. It'll be 13 years in August.
Everything happened so fast, and now you're like, Well, I actually had to talk her into it.
It did happen fast. I guess it happened really fast for me. But I did have to talk her into it a little bit. It happen
faster.
It was about the speed that I wanted it to happen. It wasn't necessarily the speed she wanted it to happen, I guess. Yeah. For any of the bad variants that I've had, when it comes to something that important, I've run better than anyone I know.
Did she come to your basketball games?
Oh, she was a huge fan. From freshman year on, she was at every game, just about, at least every home game. We traveled around a lot in college, but yeah, she loved it. She was a great basketball wife. And then I coached college for a little while, and she was always cooking for the guys, and she loved basketball. She told me if I wasn't a baller that she would have never married me.
Really?
So she loved basketball.
How did she deal with, your last game, you're crying in the locker room, don't want to take your jersey off. Where was she? Where was Abby?
Probably waiting outside. Probably didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, how did she comfort you? How did she deal with that?
I guess I pulled it together a little bit and hid it for a while. That it didn't really affect anything until later on. Much later, when I started, going through a little bit of a post-athletic career depression, was when she had to deal with it.
How old were you when you stopped playing ball?
Yeah, when I stopped playing in college, I was 22.
22 years old.
Yep.
When did you start playing poker? How old were you?
I didn't start playing until later on because it took a little bit of talking Abby into that, hey, I could actually do this and make some money. And it's probably a good thing because at the time I didn't know enough about it to have been able, I would have just rested on my laurels that I was good in my own home game and thought that would have carried over to being a professional poker player, which is no way.
What pushed Abby over the top?
Well, it was actually my cousin. My cousin Nathan, he started, he also is kind of the same. We were all interested in poker, and he started playing online, and he got into training sites, and his game just changed like right away, and he just started making money hand over fist. All of a sudden, like within 2 years, he was, making six figures. He bought a little boat and Escalade, and I was like, Abby, look at what he's doing. Like, there's no way I could do this,
Yeah.
All I need is a little coaching from him. And she's like, okay, whatever. We were broke at the time. I was coaching.
Nothing to lose.
Yeah, I was coaching, and she was like, all right, you can have $500 and you can go play in this home game. It was actually up on Cameron Hill, and so I went up there and played a couple times, and I tripled it and took her to Vegas.
Wait. So with $1,500, like how much is a plane ticket to Vegas? Like $300 a piece.
Oh
right?
man, you can get back then. You get plane tickets to Vegas for like $180. Like we're talking about 2005 or something like that.
Yeah. So $360 for your plane tickets. You just spent a 30-year bankroll on plane tickets to Vegas.
At this point, I didn't care about my bankroll. I was just happy to have $1,000, man.
That's yeah.
I was making $18,000 a year coaching. I can't believe I just made money playing poker.
Yeah.
I'm such an idiot poker player at this time, like naive, that I think I can just keep doing it over again.
Yeah,
And I'm invincible for sure. I'm invincible, and I'm still kind of trying to get her on this thing. And I remember the first time I took her, and she pulled her first pull on a slot machine, and she won $250. She hit the 1,000 on the spin thing for quarters.
Yeah.
And she was like, "This is awesome. This gambling thing ain't so bad." Fortunately for her, I had an incredible group of really good poker players to learn from. So, or that could have gone really poorly.
So she hits the jackpot on the slot machine, and she's like, "Oh, gambling's good. Look at this."
Yeah, here we go. And then one summer, Nate said, "Hey man, you just got to do this online thing." I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." He's like, "I'm just gonna put $500 into account, and I'll coach you." And I was like, "Sounds good." So I just enjoyed playing, and it was just a way to compete. So I did it, and I broke even for 2 straight summers. And then that third summer, I had a breakthrough, and that's when I would only play in the summer times because I was busy with basketball during the year. But that third summer was when I broke through and started making some money.
So it took you essentially 3 years.
26 when I first started making some money. I would say that summer when I was 27, that was the one where it just exploded.
And then all of a sudden, basketball kind of went to the background and poker moved to the foreground.
Yeah, and then I ended up working at another school in another college with a good friend of mine now, and we had a deal where I only had to come in. I didn't have to put in office hours, and I just practiced some games and some recruiting, and that was it. So I had my whole days to play, and that's around that time when it started really exploding, and I was doing really well. I didn't really jump up the stakes because I was really happy at just making my non-variance X dollars per month.
Did you have I know you told me about an interesting story about a pet that you had in college. What was up with the pet?
Oh, the duck.
How did you find the duck?
The duck, we didn't find the duck. The duck found us. Yeah, I don't know how. Don't ask me. All of a sudden, the Aflac duck just shows up at the place.
You're just sitting in your house, and a duck just walks in the front door.
Well, we're over at Nate's house, and we're getting ready to start this poker game, and everybody's drinking a little bit before the game and having a good time, and all of a sudden we hear some quacking outside, and figured it's one of our friends messing around. whatever. And we go out there, and there's this duck just sitting on the front porch. And I'm like, what in the world is this duck doing out here? So the night went on, and everybody, we're playing and having a good time and getting rowdy. And Nate felt like it would be a good idea to the duck was thirsty, and hungry.
Wait, so you let the duck inside?
Of course we did. What else could we do? We weren't going to be rude hosts.
That's a good point. So you let the duck inside. The duck is hanging out with you guys while you're getting drunk and playing poker.
Yeah. I think we even had a chair for it. We're just sitting there hanging out. Like, if you can imagine, just a bunch of guys sitting around a poker table and a duck, like checking out my cards every time I look down to peek at them. So we fed him a little bit of bread that may or may not have been soaked in alcohol. And at this point, like about 2 or 3 in the morning, the duck is like visibly drunk. And
what's he doing?
He's walking around and just flapping one wing. Like, literally, you can picture this duck walking around a poker room, and it's by itself, and no one's even paying attention to it, and it's just like flapping one wing. I don't know if it was like trying to fly or what. Like, it was having one of those moments where it thought it could do anything.
I mean, maybe it was just showing off for you guys. Like,
maybe.
Look what I can do.
I don't know. It was going, and it kept honking like crazy. So we ended up putting it outside. And
wait, so you got it drunk, and then you put it outside because it was honking.
Yeah, so the duck stayed outside for a little bit, and everyone kind of left and patted the duck when we walked out. On the way out, the duck walked into a wall, kind of hit its beak, did the duck version of yelping. But then I woke up, and I was like, was there a duck in the house last night? And I look out the window, and there's a duck that's just full out wings. Ducks sleep like curled up with their head under their wing and stuff. This duck is full sprawled out, wings totally open. Looks like a falcon with a long neck, just laying on the ground, and flies are flying around it and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we killed a duck last night. This is terrible. And went outside. I was like, Nate, man, the duck is dead. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, dude, this is terrible. I don't know what we're going to do. We're upset. I went outside and poked it, and I guess it was still drunk. It had passed out, and I poked it with a broom, and it stood up and started like staggering and flapping one wing again and honking. And it stayed with us for like 2 months. Just hung out. And so it was kind of like a normal pet.
So what happened to the duck after the 2 months? I mean, he just shows up, he joins y'all's party, gets drunk, and passes out on the front lawn.
It's a very soft spot. We moved to a really bad area of town, took our duck with us, and I think it was Thanksgiving or the night before Thanksgiving or something, the duck was gone. And I have theories about what went down, but we went to bed that night, the duck was there, and we woke up the next morning and the duck was gone. So
where did the duck hang out? Was he at?
He was a backyard duck. He would never leave.
The duck can fly,
yeah,
and it just hangs out in the backyard.
Of course, man. You feed a duck, it's not going to leave.
What do you think happened to him? What's your theory?
It kind of breaks my heart. I really think as I said, we moved right by the college that I went to, and it's a really bad area of town. And I really think that someone was hungry and wanted some Thanksgiving duck. That's what I'm worried about. So I guess we shouldn't have taken the duck to this area of town. I'm pretty sure it met its maker in the next couple days. So
you took a duck to a super poor area of town around Thanksgiving and just let him hang out in the backyard.
I was naive, man. I was naive at the time. I didn't, that was before I realized that the world is a harsh, cruel place. I mean, I was in college. I felt invincible, as I felt the duck was invincible.
All right. So I had to get that story because I love it.
I love telling it.
So fast forwarding again. You're playing poker. You finally find success. You're making a lot of money. You're doing basketball, but it's more in the background, and you're coming into your own, right?
Feel that way.
How? I mean, I'm not going to ask specifically how much money you were doing, but you were making 6 figures a year, right?
Yeah. We were Oh man, it was crazy because I was making, my first job was $18,000 a year, and Abby's grinding it out at the bank, and we had a baby, and we had a baby before I started playing poker. So I mean, we knew what hard times were. We lived in the bottom of a school dorm.
Yeah,
I mean, it was rough. So once we started making this money, it was like, wow, this is great. I don't know if I didn't really plan ahead too much like I should have. So advice to all you poker players: if you start making good money, don't just start spending it like crazy. No, we didn't go lavish and absolutely insane with it, and we did some investing. We went to Dubai for a week, and went to China for a week, and bought a jet ski and a couple cars, and just
pretty normal.
Yeah, normal stuff, but like stuff that we had never done before. We'd never spent anything. We just
and you had no backup plan.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until a couple of years after that I met with a financial advisor, and we had actually started putting some money away in investments.
How were you doing, call it February of 2011, financially?
We're doing really well. And I was coming off, I went on a massive heater. That year was the first year that I started playing 1K, no limit, 510. I was playing some 510 and 1020. So that was the year that it really started. Like, I was always playing 2-4 and 3-6 the 4 years before or so, and just making an even good amount every month, and it being pretty solid. And then that year I started stepping up the stakes because it was just, I was ready to. And I went on a big time heater right around that February, March area, ran my account up pretty high. And
how high?
I had 45 grand in there, which for me was high. I mean, I never really thought, I always tried to keep it really low, because the year before I had 14,000 on Eurolinks, and then Eurolinks went under. Mm-hmm. And they just took off, and it was kind of like these days, Goldwyn, or what was the other big one that started with T? Titan Poker, maybe? I don't know, one that just recently went down. It would be like those, and like Ultimate Bet was, and that one hit me hard, but it didn't hit me that hard because I still had my Ultimate Bet account. It was my main cash cow. Mm-hmm. It hit my cousin and my other buddy way harder than it hit me, and I felt bad whining about my measly 14 grand. But so I was aware, and at the time I was aware that this could always happen at some point. Not likely, but it could happen. Yeah, even with sites like Ultimate Bet. So I always tried to keep a low balance, but at that time I couldn't get it all cashed out at the time because I had a 10K limit, and I ran it up to 45, and it was uncomfortable.
Yeah, it was. I think looking back at it, it was kind of like one of those inevitable things. Kind of, it feels a little bit like death, Like, yeah, one of these days we're all going to die, but nobody really believes that it's actually going to happen.
It really was. Like, you're exactly right. We all knew in the back of our heads that this could happen, and was going to happen probably at some point. The wrong person people get in office, it's going to happen, because them sites were making money hand over fist. I mean, and there's no way that the U.S. government would allow that to happen without them getting a big piece of the action.
So February, March, April, up to April, you're crushing, just on a massive heater at the biggest stakes you've ever played. You also had a second baby. How old was little Layla? Well,
we hadn't had Layla yet. Here's the crazy part of the story. I'll tell you where I was the day I found out about Black Friday.
April 15th, 2011.
Yeah. 2 weeks before, I had paid my taxes for that year on my poker winnings.
Did you pay quarterly every year, or did you just
Nope.
Do it all in one
I'm an idiot. I paid all one lump sum.
So you got smashed.
Yeah, pretty much. And but I didn't think of it as getting smashed. Just pay some money, part of doing business, whatever. And then we had bought a car and paid it off, like pretty much. We bought a house. So we upgraded our house, bought a house. I bought a Jeep, and then we paid off
cash.
Well, it was kind of part of a deal with our house. We paid off both cars, so it was like $47K right there. And we bought, like, I paid off my other car, and then I bought this Jeep, and we pretty much paid cash for both of them, to be clear. And it was kind of lumped in with our house loan, and we bought a house. And then I was in the office of a real estate agent. We were signing the papers on our house, and I got a text from Nate, my cousin, and he said, dude, all the poker sites just went down. It's done. And that was what I'm staring at. And my heart I just swallowed it.
I mean, that was the extent of the text, just, it's done?
Yes. And Abby is 8.5 months pregnant.
Oh my God. How much money did you have when UB went under?
On there?
To your name. No, to your name.
Oh man, I don't know. It wasn't a lot. I had more in investments than I did. I can't even really remember.
Was it more or less than 10,000?
It was probably it was a little bit more.
A little bit more than 10,000.
And I had these investments kind of backing us, but I wasn't really wanting to pull out of that. Like, it was like a college fund for Olivia, and just investments that you're not really wanting to, like, break into.
What were your thoughts when Nate said, it's over? You're signing the paperwork for your house, right? Did you want to be renege on the house? Be like, never mind, just kidding.
I did, but I think I was kind of so in shock that I didn't really think of anything at the time. Yeah. I was just floored, kind of paralyzed by the information, and I didn't really realize the effect that it would have until a couple of. And we'd all had, we'd had scares before with stuff like that. I didn't, I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. This might not even be the real thing. I didn't think it was that big a deal at the time. And I figured, there'll be something to get through in a couple weeks or whatever. But yeah, it just happened. I think a week or two later, when I really realized I can't play anymore. I can't work.
What skills did you have? I mean, what skills had you developed since the time that you were a basketball coach making nothing to a poker player making six figures?
And that was the year that I quit my job at Lee, at the place that I was coaching. I was just a full-time poker player that year. So yeah. It was on to literally I had nothing to do. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have any way to play cards. We didn't live by a casino. I had no idea what I was going to do.
How was Abby through this?
She's the best poker wife you could have. She was pregnant at the time, and it was definitely stressful. We had Layla a couple weeks later, but I would say for sure on her, and it wasn't the fact that we were down money. She always kind of had confidence in me that I was going to figure out something, find a way. The hard thing for her was my depression and the wheels falling off in my head. Was a hard thing. I mean, I would sit on the porch with headphones on for hours, not even necessarily trying to think of what to do, just blank,
just a total state of disbelief.
Yes, and self-loathing too. I mean, there was a period of grieving that I think that we all went through on Black Friday. We all needed a chance to grieve. I'm sounding like this was a death or something, but when you lose the ability to compete at the level, even with basketball that I had at the level that I was at, or with poker at the level that we were at, it is like a death in your mind. Part of you dies right there when you lose the ability to compete. And that was the hard thing for me. That was the depressing thing for me. It wasn't even just the money. It was the losing that ability to just go out there and battle every day, and then the fear of, all right, how am I going to make money now? Like the fear of the future.
What was like your worst case scenario with your family and everything? I mean,
what do you mean?
What was going through your mind? Like, what were you thinking? Like, all the money's gone. I can't do anything. I'm super depressed. I mean, did you have any big fears about your family? Like, did you ever think there was a chance, like, Abby's just going to have enough? Like, I'm just not pulling my weight.
Maybe I should have. But again, like, she, really her main issue with me then was my happiness. It wasn't the money. Like, I think I don't know if she always deep down knew that it was going to, like, I was going to make sure it's okay. Maybe she knew me better than I knew myself.
So you really did hit the jackpot there. I mean, she's your number one fan.
This is kind of personal, but like she is the kind of, like, I would, I'd go outside on the deck and be frustrated, and she'd be like, "How'd you do today?" And you're like, "I lost 7,000." She'd be like, "It's okay. You'll get it back. Let's go to dinner, watch a movie, hang out." Okay, cool. Like, she's like that kind of, like, she just wanted me to be happy. She just wants our family to be happy. I mean, it really was like, she's the ultimate poker wife.
Well, I mean, probably not just poker. Probably anything you get into.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're still married. I mean, there's no way I could let her go. I mean, she's the best. She's the best friend I have. And you find a lot about someone's level of loyalty, too, when you're going through this kind of stuff.
So you're listening to your headphones on your deck, super depressed. How did you move beyond that?
Probably conversations with my friends. We'd call each other and cry in each other's beer, figuratively, and you're one of them. Conversations we had about what we're going to do, and Nathan and Kyle, and just trying to figure out a game plan. You went the live route, and then me and Nathan and Kyle went the move overseas route, and he moved to Mexico. And then me and Nathan figured out to set up, VPN and do some stuff that way, and get things going there. Do the Canada thing for a little bit, live in Canada a little bit, and then play. The
Canadian experience. Did you find yourself fulfilled once you could play again, even though you had lost so much money?
Yeah. It came back. I still struggle with Black Friday, but it was a competing, man. Like, I struggle sometimes with, like, if I'm on a big downer right now, which I just went through one, like, man, I could really use that money. But, if I'm able to compete, I'm in the game. I know that I'm going to be able to turn the corner, and it's going to be fine. It was losing the ability to compete that was the hardest part.
You're depressed. You start doing the Canadian thing, get back your happiness a little bit. How did the finances? I mean, did it solve itself?
It was a long road, of course. As far as, like, tangible cash that I had on hand that wasn't necessarily in investments, it was really, really low, and I still needed some months to make sure that I had a little buffer to live on, just in case I didn't start back really hot. I had some help from a couple buddies that, because I wasn't as spread out as they were, and I had all my money on UB at the time, which was a horrific decision that I'll never make again.
That's true, because UB doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, it is true. But on any other site, they floated me a little bit of cash, knowing that when I made it, I'll be able to pay them back. Fortunately, I got them paid back within that month.
So you went from having all the success you could handle to having to ask your friends for
which is a very pride swallowing siege, but they're real friends. And I remember one of them said, "I'm not loaning you any money." He's like, "I don't loan my friends money." And he's like, "Here, you can have this to get your roll going again, but you can pay it back if you want to, or not pay it back if you want to. This is a gift." I'm like,
Wow.
Dude, you're the man. And it really helped me out a lot, and got back on actually Bovada and started grinding Bovada again, and that's how I first got started. And then I did the Canadian thing once I built up some.
And now, the conclusion of the story, how are we today?
We're doing great. Well, had ups and downs, and had one really recent down that was more stress-induced from moving and being somewhere else, trying a experiment with a job that did not go so well. And I found that when you're stressed out in other aspects of life, your poker game suffers immensely. The amount of clarity that you have to have in your mind and peace is just as important as your technical knowledge. Your technical knowledge can just go out the window if you don't have peace of mind in your life. You can forget it. You're not going to win.
As both of us know, like a good win rate is going to be 9 to 10 big blinds per 100 playing 6 max. I mean, that's an excellent win rate.
That's in games that have actual like bad players in them. I think in tough games like a lot of the Euro games, games on stars, games on full tilt, a lot of the games on game. I mean, those really good players are really happy with the 6 big blind, 5 big blind win rate. Those games are really tough. It's just a ton of variance.
I was going to say, the loss rate. Like, what's a good loss rate for one of the whales?
Oh, jeez. You just hope they come. I have no idea how to calculate what they do.
It's right.
You just hope 90, they come.
90 minus 90 big blinds per 100. I mean,
yeah. If you think about how many sharks are out there trying to get them, I mean, I feel like it's amazing these days that they still even play. I guess some people just like to play and they have a lot of money.
I was just saying, like, kind of hard come, easy go with the mindset. When the wheels come off and you start tilting and you start playing bad, you can lose it. You can have a loss rate that is so much more than your win rate. I mean, it can just kill you.
Yeah, it really can. You can lose money a lot faster than you can make money.
Yeah.
Especially if you're talking about not controlling, not managing your bankroll as well either, and playing stakes that you shouldn't be playing, chasing the losses. It can really, or playing stakes that you normally played when you're not, when you're on a big downer and, you're like, I normally play 3-6, but I only have $5,000 in my account. It's a big, like, you just can't do that stuff. Can't play right.
So if you could time travel back to that moment when you first started playing poker, like professionally, that it became the forefront of your life. I guess you were like 27. And give yourself advice. If you had 5 minutes to give yourself advice, what would that advice be?
Don't play on ultimate bet.
Okay. Beyond that.
Okay, number one, play on ultimate bet, but play everywhere else too. I'd say spread yourself out. Make sure you're protecting your rolls by playing on multiple sites and having a bankroll that is not on a website, like not an online roll. Have some liquid cash, some in case of rainy day cash on hand that you could use at any time that is almost like, 4 or 5 months of a roll. Also, another good piece of advice that I would want to give myself is to always try to have a year or a year and a half of cash lined up. That you, instead of spending money here and there, start spending money after you have a year or two of living expenses, what your living expenses are saved up, because there's those times are gonna, the bad runs are gonna happen. They're inevitable these days, especially, and that's why training, training sites like the one that you're starting, Enhance Your Edge, and having good poker friends and study groups and everything else is so important, because people are getting better and the variance is getting higher. So you need to really protect your roll. It's your lifeblood, and you protect it by putting a lot of it away and making sure you always have a substantial roll. And then you also protect it by making sure you do your due diligence and staying ahead of the curve, staying ahead of the game.
What would you, if you could time travel back to you sitting on the front porch with your headphones on, not talking to anybody, what would you tell yourself then?
Tell myself to quit pouting. look at what you get to play poker. You got to play poker for a living for 4 years. Even if that was all you got to do, that's pretty amazing. No one gets to do that. I mean, we were talking about it, and there's a bunch of us out one day on the lake, and we were all talking about it. It's like, you realize that we're like probably 1% of 1% of 1% that make a living playing poker. Like, the odds, I think they did a study that 8 million people in the United States played poker. Like, the odds are ridiculous on how many of us actually have been able to make a living for any period of time. Be thankful for that, and I still have to tell myself that these days. And then also to quit living in the past and living in the future. Like, quit worrying about what I'm going to do in the future, because that's just hope. And then quit living in the past, because that's just regret or resting on your laurels. But living like right now, like, there was a time when I was sitting on that deck that my little girl came up to me, and she knew how things were going bad, and me and Mommy had been talking about finances a little bit, and she brought me this envelope, and it had this iPod that we had just bought her, and it was in I think it was a Christmas present that year, and she loved this thing, played with it every night, listened to it, and it was in an envelope that said "sell me," and then there was a little note in there that said, "I didn't realize that we were having such a hard time, and I just want you to have this, and it'll help," and all that stuff. And there was $11 in there. That was all the money that she had made from her allowance. And
wow,
that was one of the things that I broke down right there, and is one of those ultra human moments where you're like, what just happened is something that I'll never forget, and this now, it doesn't get any better than this now right here, even at this low point. So,
Did you cry?
Oh my goodness, like a baby. It was crazy. I hadn't cried like that since
basketball in it?
Yeah, since I was done playing basketball. It was just one of those heartwarming moments, and you're like, I'm raising a kid here. Like, one of those reality smacks you in the face. Like, I have a child. I have a family. Like, I have a kid, and they care about a lot more than my win rate or whether I lost some money on Ultimate Bet. I'll figure out a way to dust off and make something happen.
That's a pretty powerful story. Sounds like you're doing a good job raising your little girl, though.
All right, I got a good significant other. She probably does most of the best. She got all her best qualities from her, and then
that sounds more like an Abby play than a Josh play.
Yeah, her Olivia's ultra competitiveness and pestering her sister is probably the stuff that's from me.
All right, man. Well, I really enjoyed doing this interview. One more quick question. If you could have the power of flight or the power of invisibility, which would you choose and why?
I would choose the power of flight.
What would you do with it?
Well, you got to figure, if you have either one, you're going to get rich. So money can't be a reason for it, because you're going to get famous and massively rich if you can fly or if you're invisible. But I'm closetly afraid of flying on airplanes.
Yeah.
And I think part of that, like, I like driving a lot better, even though I know that it's more likely for me to die in a car accident than it is for me to die on an airplane, but I have control. And maybe it's that control freak thing that gets me about airplanes. I just want to be able to fly myself everywhere, and that would be sick. If I could fly, I would not be talking to you right now. I'd be going crazy. That would be pretty fun.
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'm really glad we did this, and let's do it again soon.
Sounds good, Brad. Appreciate you having me on.
My pleasure, man. See ya.
All right, dude.